Welcome to the Recruitment Equation, the no-nonsense podcast where we get real about what it takes to succeed in talent acquisition. We're diving into the world of recruitment, the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. From innovative strategies to unfiltered conversations with industry leaders, we're here to give you the insights you need to elevate the way you attract and hire. This episode is supported by Beyond Talents and Develop Diverse, your partner for future-proof talent attraction. Let's get started.
Here we are.
Here we are. Welcome to the Recruitment Equation. Today, I've been really looking forward to this, Nicklas. I'm Byriel, and today we have, of course, Nicklas, wonderful co-host. But I'm most excited about having you here, Sebastian, actually.
Thank you.
No offense.
I am as well.
No offense taken from you either. Sebastian, welcome.
Thank you.
And I could spend a while on presenting you, welcoming you, but I think it's a lot faster if you just very quickly tell us about yourself.
Sure.
Who are you and what's your journey? And
Sure. My name is Sebastian. I have had 2 adult jobs in my entire life. It's been joiner juice for the past 14 and a half years. Started as a juicer, ended up as Global Head of Recruitment for the entire group. 14 markets, around 5,000 people hired a year, between 300,000 and 400,000 applications each year as well. Now I sit as Head of People and Culture in Medley Capital, where I try my best to be the people business partner for 9 different portfolio companies, spanning between 2 employees and 25 employees, from insurance to battery power to AI-driven mental coaches to facility management, gutter cleaning and window cleaning, and so it's a big spread on competencies and portfolios. So that's also it's a new challenge going from 5,000 employees in Joiner Juice to around 60 in Medley. So it's much closer, which is also a nice challenge.
very nice. Thank you for sharing. I met you the first time when you were, I think, around your peak in Join the Juice, because you were out talking a lot about how you did recruitment back then.
Sure.
But for everyone else who might follow you on LinkedIn, who might have read some of the articles back then, you talk a lot about the CV.
Mm-hmm.
You talk a lot about the motivational letter.
Sure.
Did I forget something?
No,
Anything
I think, and then maybe some people also know me for AI and
for
recruitment.
AI. Yeah. So I think specifically around, burying.
Mm-hmm.
I put title on my notes to say burying the CV.
Sure.
I tell myself that you said this out loud before. But what is this burying the CV, burying the motivational letter, and how does that intersect with AI?
Yeah, I think we've come to a time now, the world we live in, the way that we should be hiring, not necessarily the way that we are hiring, but the way that we should be hiring, where it doesn't cut it anymore. It's not a fair translator of your skills as a person or as an employee. We've outgrown it more or less. It's a 100-year-old process that we haven't really changed up since we started it. It has its roots all the way back to the Industrial Revolution. Where I think that we are at a point in time and in life where we should do better.
I think that sounds great.
Yeah, and I have so many questions for that. So first and foremost, like the thought of doing this at Join the Juice, like tell us about how it went from an idea to something that people actually agreed on. Like you had to have some stakeholders agreeing on doing this.
Sure.
So how did that entire process go from you thinking we should do it differently, we should cut out the CV and cover letter, to people actually agreeing on implementing that new process?
Sure. So in Joiner Juice, they hire. I did at that time around 5,000 people a year, with more or less the same requirement for skills, which is more or less none. So it's juice sandwich or coffee. It's not rocket science. We'll teach them what they need to know when they start. And I had a revelation from coming in. I've also been a hiring manager, a recruiter, before I came into the role of Global Head. And sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you don't really see the forest for the trees, right? But coming out of that, having a more strategic view on what we did, I all of a sudden, it dawned on me that we were only more or less looking for three things in a CV and a cover letter. We wanted to know if they were above 18. We wanted to know if they would have like current requirements. Were they in school? Did they have another job? And did they actually have a work permit in the market that they applied for? And we asked for a CV and a cover letter for that, which I think was a little bit silly. Because it took a lot of time obviously for the candidates, but also a lot of time for our recruiters to sit and look through that amount of paperwork. So to begin with, we actually just removed that and asked three questions instead. Are you above 18? Do you have any experience? Do you have any commitments at the future state? And do you have a work permit in the market that you're applying for? Yes. Good to go. We want to see you for an interview.
Yeah, so that's interesting, Sebastian, because if you had more people answering yes to those questions that you had open positions,
sure.
What did you then do to deselect some and select others?
And that was why I was more or less it's a two-step process, right? So the first thing we did was to take out the CV, and then around 2 years later, we implemented the AI tool that helped us far more than we ever thought it actually would. So it's a two-step process. So we had more. We had more people applying than we could ever use. 5,000 hires translates to roughly 15 to 20,000 interviews per year. And we had at that time around 200,000 people applying for us every year. So even at that stage, even though that we took out CV, we took out cover letter, it was still a process where the people that latest applied also got the fastest response, right? So top of the pile, basically. But a big step from the way that we did it before, and then moving into the AI implementation 2 years down the line or so.
But I think for me, there's something here in this story that I happen to know because we spoke before, Sebastian, and I think that's really interesting, and it also overlaps with, I know, some things you work with today that relates to culture.
Sure.
So today you sit with portfolio companies, but I think, as I remember it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you were also part of a large exercise of mapping out the culture.
Sure. Which
I think is the step that many companies are missing for using AI and having AI used to its full of its capabilities.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about not necessarily the exact process for doing this, but how did you do that? How did you approach that?
So I think when mapping out culture, it's important just to not make assumptions. Don't sit in your ivory tower. Don't have an assumption that from your position, you know exactly what the culture is. You need to ask the people that are actually living it, that are working with it every day. That's what I did, and that's what we do now in Medley. That's also what we did in Joe & the Juice. We asked the people that lived it day to day, what is it that you're looking for in a good employee? What does that translate to? What kind of skills is that? Is that maturity? Is that extroversy? What is it that? So we actually did competency-based hires and whether they adhered to the values of Joe & the Juice or the virtues of Joe & the Juice, the 4 virtues that they have and that they encompass in their branding and marketing and way of working. So did a fair amount of due diligence in terms of asking the people out in the markets. And I think in Joe & the Juice, we had the privilege of having a lot of people. So you could get a vast amount of data. I'm not going to go into exactly what it is and how we did it, but we asked a lot of people, what is a good employee? And the answers we sort of blended, to use juicer language, into the competency, to the DNA profile of Joe & the Juice. We're looking into the same thing in Medley, where we are speaking to all the key shareholders, stakeholders. What is the culture? As I came in, they are all talking a lot about it's Medley's culture is extremely good. It's so strong and it's everywhere. And it's like, okay, but what is it? Yeah, that's hard to say, and it's very fluffy. And okay, but can you put some words to what it is? No, I think that's good that you're here.
It's a feeling.
That's a feeling, exactly, and it's a feeling that's maybe borne by 8 or 10 people. Yeah. And as you are growing and scaling, that's going to be very hard to make sure that everybody understands that, knows what it is when that's mentioned. So yeah,
I think I can almost hear some of our, let's call it HR colleagues, recruitment colleagues out there saying, well, it's really cool that you did it on those low-skill, entry-level positions.
Sure.
Did you also do it when you hired a CFO or a head of legal for group? So can you tell us a bit about, did you implement it across all positions, no matter seniority or complexity?
Yeah.
Or was it only like front-level customer service?
Only front level.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So only front line, only people. That is also why it obviously some people will say it was an easy choice to make because it was one profile that we look for across all the markets. I think the interesting thing about the model that we used is that it's also using machine learning, so we can actually find a ideal profile for each market, and if we have enough data, is eventually find an ideal profile for each store. Which is a quite interesting way of being able to scale. Yeah. Just before I left, we did a agent that also did store managers and district managers. So for higher skill levels, more experience, different competencies, much more leadership focused. So I think I know that it's definitely possible to do across not only entry level positions. It's a matter of the data that you want to train your model on or your agent on, and the way you approach it. I would say.
Yeah.
And I think as well as I, sometimes we can also have an idea that it can't be done on certain levels. Mm-hmm. So I think what you did there was, to actually put a formula as to what is success at this company.
Sure.
What does that look like? Not necessarily just in terms of performance, but in terms of being a good employee and motivated, happy long term, which also relates to that.
Sure.
So why is there any other reason as to why it's important in the recruitment? We're talking a lot about recruitment here, of course, to have that cultural framework and to define it like this, or can you go? To be honest, at Lyser, which is the company that I represent here, of course, we haven't gone through this huge exercise, or at least as many years ago we defined our values. Why is it important?
I think if you as a company don't know who you are, what you represent, what your virtues are, what your values are, it's very hard to attract the right people. It's hard to repel the wrong people, in quotation marks. It needs to, from my perspective, it needs to function also as a push-pull effect. So that if you are very upfront, you can use it as your employer branding. You can say, this is what we represent, this is what we stand for. Especially the generation that is coming into the labor market now, Generation C, which is accounting for around 25-26% of the entire labor market currently. They will reject you based on your virtues if you're not clear on them, if you have the wrong virtues according to them and their own skill set and their own level. So they will reject a good salary. They reject maybe a star employer based on the lack of virtues or of the wrong virtues based on their own opinion. So the stronger you can be and the more clear you can be on your own virtues, in theory, the easier it should be to hire the people that stay long term. Because if you adhere to your virtues, if you can mirror yourself in the virtues of the company that you're in, it's more fun to go to work. You're more engaged. You'll also stay for longer.
And especially if you do the exercise like you did. And I don't know, in a moment I can ask you about how do you do it today, but what you've, at least for Joe and the Jews, is like up, it's not bottom, it's bottom up is what I'm trying to say here. Where it's actually, it's authentic.
Yeah.
You're not just describing what you want to be.
Nope.
You're actually describing and putting it up as to what are we.
Yeah.
So that is also better alignment. Whenever you get into the company for retention purposes and everything.
Yeah, definitely. So like I could set out a course. I could say this is what we stand for. This is an ideal juicer. Or I was very good at this. I started as a juicer. So I could say I was very good at this 10 years ago. Still the same. Probably not, right? Hopefully not. Hopefully we evolved in those 10 years. So I'd say that if you can describe it bottom up, if you can make it, if you can anchor it in the organization from a bottom up and not dictate what people should feel, but actually try and narrow down, sort of concise what it actually is that's going on out there. What is it that's living? That's also going to make it an easier implementation, right? If you, instead of, pulling something over people's head or, so if you find and if you can sort of put your finger to like, yes, that's exactly how I'm feeling when I'm coming to work every day. It's going to be much easier to make it live out there. So it's not going to be a draw document. It's not going to be a wall decor that you can see when you come into the reception every day, right? Because that's where a lot of companies, without pointing fingers, nobody mentioned, nobody forgotten, stops.
Yeah.
It's like, now we did it, we defined it, we put it up,
Here it
now
is.
everybody understands. No, right? Like we need to work it into our policies, we need to work it into our pre-boarding, our onboarding, we need to work it into our job ads from A to C before it actually lives and before it actually works.
Yeah.
And now going from, as you said, a very big global company to a portfolio with a lot of smaller companies, what have you taken with you in your methodology and in your ideology about recruitment? And what have you had to acknowledge, okay, I need to change this a bit because it worked at Joe and the Juice, but it won't work at this small insurance tech company.
Exactly. So I think to start with, what I haven't brought with me is, like, of course, in Joe and the Juice, it was big processes. It was, and you can turn one button and then you could change hundreds of thousands in the other end, right? Where in a company with 25 people, and if it's a good year, we hire 5. Then it's a different scale.
Yeah.
And I've definitely come to realize that one size fits none, especially in the work that we're doing now.
Yeah.
I need to understand exactly what they need when they need it, both now as is, but also a future state, to support the organizational development, to understand that one wrong hire is extremely expensive in a business where you are 2, 3, 4, 5 people. More than when you're hiring 5,000 a year, then one person is probably just collateral damage, to be fair. But in smaller scale, it hurts a lot. What I can bring with me is my, I think, cultural understanding, how important that is. Bringing that into a small company also makes a vast difference when you're doing it right and when you're doing it upfront. And understanding that it's easier to implement and communicate values when you are 70 than when you are 5,000. Yeah.
And also now, going from like removing resume and cover letter, replacing it with screening questions, and then using AI as a leverage.
Yeah.
Have you been able to do that like in the same way in some of these smaller companies, maybe also with some more complex specialist positions? Or have you had to go, let's call it more old school, just because you didn't get applicants enough, or the applicants they were used to?
Yeah. So to be honest, I had to move into the territory I try to crucify, right? So in the lack of better tools right now, we had to use a old school way, and it doesn't become me, and I'm not very good at it either, to be honest. And that way of recruiting and that way of working. So we're definitely looking into changing that up. We're looking into AI agents for our insurance advisors. We're looking into different blind recruitment possibilities for our gutter cleaners and window cleaners, and especially in our insurance company, which is very much driven by sale. It's a very male-dominated industry in general, not only with us, but if you look at any insurance company, it's majority males because the risk appetite is most often higher. It's provisionslønnet, as you say in English. Provision, thank you. So what you do is what you get out. And that is very appealing to especially young males. So we're looking into different ways of blind hiring and not taking references and not only talking into people with experience, but actually changing that up to diversify.
Yeah. So do you see, Sebastian, a future where blind recruitment, removal of resume, cover letter, and so on, is like, as you said, it's one size fits none. But are we going towards a world where all recruitments, also the new CEO of Novo Nordisk, is hired in the same process as the next user? Or are you actually seeing a future where we acknowledge, or that we actually use different processes for different positions?
Yeah, I would say that, because one size fits none. So you cannot use the same tools as Joe and the Juice does to find a juicer, to find your next CFO of Maersk or whatever, right? But I definitely think that it is time to shake things up, that we are not only, because experience fairly rarely is actually a catalyst for job success, right? So just because you've done your job for 10 years doesn't mean that you're necessarily good at it. I think we can see that many places when we look closely. So I think there is definitely a movement going on in terms of, there's also a lot of talk about it in recruitment Denmark, so to speak, because it's an exciting new, and it's also a little bit of a paradigm shift. But I also fear that people are maybe too not convinced enough or haven't seen enough results, and that's also why I'm so keen on talking so much about it, because I would love to be at least just pushing it just a little bit, a centimeter at a time, for us to consider the way that we are recruiting currently isn't fair for anybody, so to speak, not even the people that are getting chosen. Yeah.
So, should we bury the CV? Is that what you're going out to say to the portfolio companies? Of course, to the world, obviously. Mm-hmm. But what about the companies you work with every day? Mm. Do you have a process for burying the CV, or do we start, one place, but the end goal should be to bury that CV and motivational letter? Is that a conversation you have with the people you work with?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So that's something that I'm trying to just plant a seed more or less every day, saying I think we should move away from this. Look at this. Let's look at this candidate instead. Let's try and not know how they look like or what their name is before we see them at the interview. Yeah. All those sort of things. I try to plant small seeds because I'm not gonna. It's what I also learned is that founder-driven companies, when it's ejerledere, when it's people that founded the company and also are running it, they're also very extremely passionate about it, which is amazing. Which also means that they are afraid to make a wrong choice. Maybe the risk appetite isn't as high as it can be other places. So I think it's a step-by-step game for me that I need to make it work in a company.
And habit.
Showcase it, and habit definitely as well.
Isn't it?
That we need to change things up. And they also need to learn that I'm there to help and not only to kick in doors, but also to give them better results with maybe even less work than they're doing now and people that are staying for longer.
Yeah.
I know a lot of HR and recruitment people that are interested in AI, but they work in recruitment and HR because they are competent in people.
Sure.
So AI, it's tech, and they're like, I think it's interesting, but I don't know how to work with it. How did you start with AI, and how would you advise people out there who are not tech savvy? Who
I'm not either. So that's fair.
So how would you help them, or how would you advise them to get started with looking at AI and the way they could implement it in their recruitment?
But I think I would actually advise them to start by considering, is it even necessary? Take a step back. Look at your processes. Is there anything that we can do before implementing AI? Because you don't want to implement AI for AI's sake, because if you don't understand the value that it creates, if you don't understand what the data set it's trained on, if you don't understand what data you're feeding it and what it's actually meant to either be screening or interviewing or how it's doing it, you can very, very fast track your own biases or the biases that are in AI, because AI is biased, people are biased. There is no such thing as a bias-free recruitment process. So you can really scale your own biases at speed if you're doing it with AI, because you can scan 300,000 applications in a matter of minutes. So take a step back and look at your processes. Is there anything we can do better that we are doing now without AI? Amazing. Let's start by doing that. Because I think it was Julie who said that automations is also sometimes just lipstick on a pig. That you can't really.
That's Julie from Datalund, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And I recently also said that you could put a flag in a dog shit and it's still a dog shit. So if your process doesn't really work, if you don't have the foundation to build it on, there's no reason to put in AI, because it's going to be a malfunctioning system to begin with.
Yeah. It might even do more damage than you did on your own, doing it wrong and bad.
Yeah, because you can do it at a much larger scale. Yeah, exactly.
Towards that.
Yeah. So I think my advice is always take a step back and consider, do you actually need to use AI? Because it shouldn't be for the sake of it. But if you then find out, okay, my processes are really good, I'm spending a lot of time here that I could maybe invest in people instead. I'm spending a lot of time screening resumes and CVs as an example. Please, by all means, AI should be a leverage. It should be a tool to elevate the human interaction, so to speak. So that if you can remove time from your processes with, if it's automations, if it's AI, whatever it is, that can give you time back, that you can invest in the people when you are working in TA recruitment, HR, because you are a people's person or because you like and are good to work at working with people, then by all means, I think that's an amazing idea.
So how did you get started, actually? Just, like you did it with your own douche. You're probably doing it now in multiple ways, using technology, AI, call it what you want. How did you know it was the solution?
But I didn't know it was a solution. I know that we had a problem. In Journey Juice, I knew that we we were most likely missing out on good talent. We weren't giving the people that are applying with Join the Juice the best experience. A consumer brand like Join the Juice, a lot of the people that are applying are most likely also customers, which can hurt, revenue, bottom line, top line, if you're giving bad recruitment experiences. So from that perspective, I saw a problem and that we needed to do better than we were. And then I started looking into solutions. And AI was definitely not the first step, because it was also, I know it's been around for quite a few years, but we're still, just in start of the peak when ChatGPT came out and was like sort of everyday talk. So that I fell over that solution more by chance than by anything else that we ended up implementing into. Yeah,
I like that story. Because I think a lot of the people out there, they're sitting, we all looking into AI solutions. Everything is the AI these days, right?
Definitely.
It's like in the old days when some things became digital or online.
Yeah.
We don't use that word anymore because everything is online, right? You don't use digital online in your marketing.
No.
Because everything that's implied.
Yeah.
You can always discuss whether we're going the same with AI, but everything is AI these days as well, right? So is AI the solution? Is that what we should be looking into? Or how do we approach using AI in recruitment? Because it did a lot of good for you, is what I hear.
Sure.
So should we just throw ourselves in there?
No.
I think just in danger of repeating myself, I think we should always take a step back. Always understand what it is that you are trying to fix.
So if I'm getting too many applicants.
If you're getting too many, there's no such thing as too many applicants.
But that's what I hear. That's interesting, right?
No, but I think, yes. So from a quantity perspective, it's extremely useful.
Yeah.
Because you can, if you understand the guardrails that you send up, the data set that it's trained on, the system that we use in Join the Juice is called Zapier AI. A big plug to anybody who's looking for something like that, an Australian company. They are pro mass recruitment, so they are more or less faced towards, Starbucks, Holland & Barrett, Join the Juice, people that are getting a lot of applications. And that's only trained on interview data. So it's only trained on what the candidate choose to give. So there's no demographics, there's no age, there's no gender, there's no picture, there's no name. So it's only the information that the candidate supplies. That it's evaluating them on, and I think that's an amazing way to go about it. So definitely from a mass recruitment perspective, when you're getting a lot of applications, when you get a lot of people that wants to come work for you, also give them a good experience doing so.
Because vendors, companies out there, they want to sell you the solution, right, to a problem that sometimes have been made up, right? Because do you really have this problem? It's so easy to throw yourself out there. So what I hear you say, the one advice you have for anyone looking into AI solutions, get your problem straight. Is that
understand your pain
summary?
Points. Yes, you can put it that easily. So understand your pain points. What is it actually? Because there is also, let's call it an echo chamber, or like everybody is talking AI and everybody is implementing it. I saw a survey the other day that 95% of Recruitment America is using AI in their recruitment processes. Okay, but do they actually need to?
Yeah.
That would be my first question.
And what does that mean?
And what does that mean? And where are they using it? And is it just automations and not AI? That's also a big misconception sometimes, right? That just because you get an automatic response doesn't make it artificial intelligence. You get that from Skattevæsenet in Denmark, right? That's not very artificial intelligence. So understanding your pain points, understanding where is it that we're suffering right now, either from a financial perspective or from a candidate experience perspective. Where does it hurt? Okay, that's when you pinpointed that. Then you need to look at the solutions, and that's not necessarily AI, but can definitely help.
The question I get a lot, and I know you also have gotten before, is around, okay, that sounds great, Sebastian, but how did you convince anyone in your organization that this was a good idea? Because we're struggling, right? We want AI, but we're afraid of AI.
Sure.
So how, what is your advice for anyone out there wanting to look into and have, let's just imagine all the solutions open. They have a problem straight. They know they have a problem. And that can be candidate attraction. It can be screening, assessment, whatever that is.
Sure.
They know their problem. And AI may or may not be the solution, but how do they get anyone within the organization convinced?
Yeah. So like from my experience, especially in big corp, which Joe and the Juice turned out to be in the end, like to be honest, right? It's a lot down to like monetization. Do this make sense from a financial perspective?
But the funny thing is that I often hear that, especially in recruitment, like we need to speak business language.
Sure.
But again, I see a very big difference between Carlsberg, bestseller, Novo, Maersk, because as you said, if we do a small change in our recruitment process, it's thousands of processes every year.
Yeah.
But Denmark is built on small and medium-sized companies.
Sure.
So and a lot of HR people out there, they are HR managers responsible for a company with 60 people. If they do make a change, nobody can really see it in the spreadsheet, but they can really feel it in the culture, in the attraction, and so on.
Yes.
So if you can't really go in and say, we will save millions of dollars, how would you then speak to a hiring manager or set of hiring managers?
Yeah. So I think that's a lot from the people agenda, right? So you need to also understand that monetization or financial gains doesn't only come from revenue or from putting money down to the bottom line, but explaining to a hiring manager or to a director how expensive it is to make a wrong hire. It's like around 200% of a year's salary to make a wrong hire. Then if you can translate people agendas into financial terms, then I think you can come a really long way. Understanding that engagement fuels longer retention. Understanding that good hires are actually cheaper than making wrong hires fast. So translating people agendas, translating people skills into financials often is a good way to go because they are directly monetized. You can see it on the bottom line. You just need to understand how to calculate it.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I like that, and I like that approach because it's rational, but I think it's hard, and people are struggling with it.
For sure.
So it's. But you just need to practice a bit.
Yeah, and then I think it's about also putting people on the agenda in whether you call it in the direction or in the C-level, in the C-suite, in the management, whatever you call it, that it's an equally important part of the business, that our people matter, and that we are, whether you are a people-first company or whether you're not. And I don't think that people actually want to. Exactly. And I don't actually think that any C-suite, if you ask them directly, are we not a people-first company, would actually say, no, we're not. So I think that's also about speaking that agenda and wanting to take that battle and wanting to take that fight to put that on the front line.
So we've been talking a lot. Time is really running when you're having a good time here. But we've been talking about a few different topics here. So we've been touching on culture. Having the culture to be the foundation is what I heard you say. It really has to start with the culture, defining that culture, mapping it out, understanding what you are, not just what is on the wall there. Whether it says people first, you have to act it and understand what it actually is to understand how you can actually attract properly, retain properly. So use that actively in recruitment, but also in connection with AI and actually mapping that out. So you can actually, for an example, with what you mentioned here, using it for screening purposes and using it to actually...
and it's important to mention not screening CVs and applications.
Obviously. Yes. Because the CV doesn't exist. It's
no.
Already,
okay,
right?
If that's our reality, obviously.
But to actually screen or to assess people who it would be a good addition to the company, for an example, who would be happy long term, who would have a good time. So the culture part is really important for the AI part too. Is that?
I would say so. Yeah.
Correctly,
depending on your approach to it, but I think from my perspective, yes, I would say that is the foundation that you should build your scaling on. That you need to understand where you're coming from. You need to understand what are, especially as a founder, I'm also learning now, what is my own values and virtues, and do they actually match the company? And they will in especially startups and scale-ups, right? Because it comes from them, and it is more or less just them to begin with.
Yeah.
So obviously that reflects a lot, but you need to have the self-awareness to also understand what does that reflect to other people and how do we build on that? Because the stronger you are in the beginning of that, the easier your scaling journey is going to be. Because if you have that self-awareness, if you understand what am I really good at, but more importantly, what am I not so good at, then you can you can manage that in your scale-up and your growing journey.
Yeah. So, yeah, sorry.
The equation.
Exactly. I was about to ask that. Because we have to have an equation. That's
Sure.
what we call this podcast.
Yeah.
We have a few pillars.
Yeah. Okay.
Within this, right?
Okay.
You mentioned a few pillars here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to put in, how do you attract the best candidates to any business in your portfolio, for an example? What is that equation? What do you have to have in order to make up that high-performing candidate, a successful attraction?
I'm very happy that I actually read the questions that you sent yesterday, so I prepared a little bit.
I sent them to you
and let's see
yesterday,
if I can remember.
Oh, you prepared this.
I'll try and remember. Otherwise, I'll just go get my phone. No, it's culture plus potential.
Okay.
Times tech.
Okay, so you have a brackets in there too.
Yeah.
Okay. Times tech.
Times bias free plus tech.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So take it from the beginning. So it's culture plus processes. No, plus potential times tech plus bias free.
I love it.
But
At least
it actually sums up very, very nicely.
That equals recruitment, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We could talk forever, but we have to end at this point. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for joining. So happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Nicklas. It's been a joy. Thanks.